Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Joshua. I'm going to be your presenter today. Let's talk about browsing transactions in accounting, and how we access that is we go right up here to the upper left corner. We click on transactions, and then right below that, browse. I'm sorry, folks, I don't have a drawing tool to show you this, but right here, transactions and browse, and then this opens the browse transactions window. It's the screenshot we'll see on page 15 there that talks, that shows that screenshot of what this looks like. This is customizable, folks. This is, frankly, to me, one of the most powerful screens in accounting, let alone church windows in general, but in accounting, certainly. The browse transaction screens is a list of all of the transactions that have been posted into the financial records of church windows. They're either entered through, say, the accounting module, or they're transferred into accounting from donations or payroll. The purpose of the browse transaction screen is to give you the opportunity to confirm, correct, or completely reverse transactions if you no longer need them. And it also allows you to narrow down and view or see only transactions that you want to see or to work with, as the case may be. Okay. A transaction number, as we see here, this column on the left, a transaction number is assigned to every transaction in church windows. This is our very good or ironclad audit trail here, and this is true about everything that's done here, whether you are correcting a transaction that warrants a reversal and reentry or a reversal. There's a record of what is entered here. This is why we strongly recommend that you set up and use usernames and passwords and create a separate one for every user who logs into the software. Okay, so if we kind of maximize this window here to get the full screen effect on that, down the left hand side we see a view button. So what this does is it allows us to see an entire transaction in a little separate window. So if I click on, say, any one of these view buttons next to transaction number 138, it's a donation entry. It opens that up, and it opens up my view transaction, donation transaction, and shows me all of the accounts that are involved in it, both the debit asset and the credit, typically the credit income account or liability or whatever accounts were credited. I cannot edit or change or make any changes to transactions when viewing it. We're going to come back to how we can do that only. We're going to come back to how those things can be edited or changed or corrected if need be. Okay, but that's what it talks about on page 16 is you're looking at the entry only. We cannot edit anything. You cannot make changes on the view screen. If we want to make changes, we can either do the correct or the reverse. Okay. Every transaction number, every accounting year starts with transaction number 1. So if I now click on the column header labeled transaction number and scroll up, sorry, let me do it the other way, descending. Notice here, our very first payroll transaction generated on January 15th starts with a transaction number 1. Whatever your transaction number, folks, you get to at the end of the year, the next accounting year will start over the new year with transaction number 1. Okay? If you're converting or upgrading from church windows financial, then it would end the current year with whatever with the new transaction number of 1. Okay, so I'm kind of working over left to right here a little bit. So this screen offers, like I said, enormous power. I always recommend leaving transaction number and transaction type. You can take away one or the other, but you can't remove both, if I recall correctly. At the bottom of page 16, it talks about how every transaction is assigned a type. So right here it shows, on page 16, it shows income is INCM, expense or a bill is BILLL, payment is, PYMT. So every one of these, no matter which transaction it is, if I scroll down the list, we notice that every one of them has a type. Okay. Again, it's helpful information. Okay. And at the bottom of page 16, it talks about or makes the one statement, play with browse transactions. Learn to use this. Okay. Folks, this is a really, really important and powerful screen. It talks about change year, filter, and sort. What it's talking about, this button here in the upper left corner. If I click on that, it opens up the window called Transaction Browser Options. Hopefully everybody can see that. But it's got several tabs across the top. So right here, it opens automatically to the Filter tab. And you can enter a combination of criteria here. But one of the things that I like to mention on this, and this is true when I talk about any reporting, any reports in Church Windows, notably in accounting, is I don't have to physically change my accounting year if I want to look at transactions in any other year. If we click the down arrow here next to financial year, notice that all of my years are there. Okay, so if I choose 2012 and click OK, I'm now looking at my transactions in 2012. I can only look at them. I can print a transaction journal. I can't edit them. I can't change them. I can't do anything. I can simply view them. Sure, I can go to change year, filter, and sort, and I can enter criteria here that I can say, okay, I only want to see, donation transactions dated in 2012. Choose that. Click OK. There's my donation entries in date occurred order for 2012. Okay. When I go back to change year, filter, and sort, we're up to page 18 now. It talks about there in that financial year, notice it's got a closed column on it, a checkbox. If there's a checkbox, the year is closed. Again, there is absolutely nothing I can do to any of the transactions if a year is closed, okay? And because the beginning balances are brought forward from the end of the prior year, all of those years' beginning balance columns are going to be finalized. The software only allows you to enter or edit beginning balances on the first year you set up a chart of accounts, okay? So if I did want to make changes to 12, I'd have to go back into 2012 and actually physically change that year, okay? That's what it's talking about there at the bottom of that screenshot on page 18. If we go back to, let's come back into 22 here and look at our transactions by account. So below our financial year, you can select a specific account. So let's say I'm going to type in AMER, and here notice it brings up every account that has AME in it. James West Fund or American Electric Power. So whether it's a fund or an income or an expense, I can choose any account in my chart of accounts, including my vendors. So I want to see all of my transactions posted to my electric company this year. I can now simply click OK. There's all of my bills and payments for that vendor, okay? Again, it's an enhanced search. So if all I click in here and do is type in, say, my telephone, T-E-L-E, there's my telephone expense. I can click OK, and there I've just chosen my telephone expense accounts, and all I'm going to see are bills there. So a very powerful window under account, okay? A fund. So if I want to look at transactions that are posted to, say, a particular fund, which is probably going to be pretty rare, funds are affected by income and expense transactions posted to income and expense accounts. So we might find that something got posted, say, to my fund. Sorry, did I choose that? Okay, well, so it did bring up some stuff. So general operating fund, it does show all of the accounts as they pertain to so it is bringing up all my bills and payments and payroll and everything else that affected my general fund. User, if I've want to find all of the activity that was posted by a particular user in the software, I can type in that user and that user's name in there, and it'll show me exactly what that user did. Again, stresses the importance of entering separate usernames and password for everybody who uses the software, okay? So let's say, if I've got a particular check number I want to enter or find, I can click in check or reference number, type in that check number, and click OK, okay? As you can see here, folks, there's a lot of power here, okay? So I would simply type in that check number, and if I click OK, and it's either going to tell me it's going to find the entry, or it's going to tell me in this case that it found no results, okay? So we're going to go back here and clear filter and click OK to get back to our transactions list. We're on page 20 now. Date occurred. Okay, so I'm sorry. Before I move on to that, there are kind of things are a little bit different order here. You can show reconciled or unreconciled transactions, paid or unpaid bills. Okay, folks, I use this all the time when I spend a good deal of my time as a technician on my support calls using this transaction browser options page to be able to help folks find specific transactions that they're looking for with even the basic amount of information, okay? I go, okay, I want to see all my donation transactions that I posted in January Right here, clear all down the right side, check donations. There's my donation entries for January. Okay. So again, play with this window. Get used to working with this. There's enormous power here. If I click clear filter, it's going to reset everything. And if I click OK, it goes back to the default. Okay. I can also go down to these buttons across the bottom as well and use those as there as well. So in the upper right, if you've got a particular date occurred that you're wanting to look for, transactions, okay, you can enter the from and to. You do have to enter both the dates from and to. Date posted. What date were you sitting at the computer when you entered those transactions? I used that today earlier on some support calls that I had that I was helping folks with. That we wanted to see what transactions they posted while sitting at the computer. This is a systematically assigned date. You have no control over date posted. You only have control over date occurred. Date posted is the date on your computer when you posted a particular set of transactions. Is there a transaction number that you want to have entered or find? So if I click right here and put in transaction number 2 through 2 and click OK, there's the payroll entry for that particular, for the custodian in this case, for transaction number 2. Okay, clear filter again resets it all. Sorry, I'm on page 21. We're just kind of short on time here, folks. We've got a lot more material to go through here. So I want to make sure we're trying to get through as much of this as possible. Again, you want to look at specific transaction types. So you can go, okay, I want to see clear all. I want to just look at all my bills that I've posted or my payments today. So let's say I want to look at only my payments posted to my, say, Huntington Bank checking account. So here's Huntington Bank checking, bill payments only, click OK. There's all of my payments posted in 22. Again, entering a combination of criteria, not limited to just the 2 that I've entered. You can enter any amount of criteria here that you wish, okay? So again, use this window. It becomes enormously powerful. Date posted, date occurred, transaction number, yes, search, we've searched, but you can search for any transaction with a specific dollar amount if it helps. Learn to play with this window. You can save certain selections here as default if you wish. Again, here's all of our transaction types. Again, learn to become comfortable with playing with this window. Yeah, and on page 24, it shows there, show unreconciled, show unreconciled. One of the new features on the left here in 23 is this show only reversed button. I don't think I have any entries in here, but before you could not just isolate reverse transactions only. In 23, if you check show reversed and check show only reversed, it will only reveal all red transactions in the database in your accounting data for that particular year, and will omit all of the rest, none of the other actual transactions that are there. So I wasn't sure if I had some in here, but sure enough I do. I've got a bill entered here from earlier in the year. That's my only reverse transaction, okay? Clear filter down here basically resets the default. So if I go, okay, clear filter and click OK, it just brings in the entire list of transactions. You do also have a clear filter button down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the main Browse Donations window. So you can reset it here. You don't have to go to change year, filter, and sort. Okay, and that's what it talks about down at the bottom of page 25 here is you've got this restore default layout. So if you go back into change year, filter, and sort, and maybe you do some column reordering, you know, like you go, okay, and say, oh, I'm going to take off some of these columns that I don't want to see, and maybe you do this, it'll save selections as default, and you've set that. You want to do restore default layout. Notice it'll now go back to just the columns that Church Windows would by default set for you, okay? Folks, I cannot tell you how important it is that you learn how to navigate this window, okay? Going back to change year, filter, and sort, you've got, we've only just gone through the filter tab, but if you've got, say, custom account groups here, so if let's say I go, okay, I've got my trustee accounts. I don't know if I've got anything posted in here, but then I've added these custom account groups where I've done that, and if I click OK, sure enough, there's all of the transactions that involve the accounts that were around my trustees custom account group that I've created. We're not going to talk about custom account groups today. Again, it's just a way of being able to select or isolate specific accounts. and in this case, subsequent transactions. Group and sort. So in this case, it defaults to date occurred, but you can sort up to 3 sort fields deep. So say, within, say, let's change this to account number, and then maybe do a subsort of date occurred and click OK. So it's now done all of my accounts and then subsorted those in those. There's other ways to do that as well. Okay. If we do group by field 1 and group by field 2 and click OK, here notice it's got our account numbers, and then when we expand that, it does subsort it by date occurred. Again, play with this. There is power here. Okay. I was going to say reset. Oh, let me go back and redo it here. Let's do restore default, or do a clear filter down here, the bottom right, and that should have taken that back. I'm not sure why that's not done that. Let's do restore default layout. There we go. That fixed it. Group and sort. You've got an option in donations for that, and it's very powerful as well. Let's see here. We're running out of time here. I want to try to get through this. Let's go back to change your filter and sort. Columns. If you want to only display certain columns on the browse transactions, it's just like you can do with any reports. As I did before, as I said, okay, if you go, okay, I don't care if I see the column called deposit slip, or don't care if I see due date. You can take these off. So you can use these arrows here, or double click, and you can use the up and down arrows to reorder these columns if you wish. And if you like the layout, check the box in the lower left that says Save Selections as Default. Okay. And then it'll, based on your particular logon into Church Windows Accounting, it will remember that layout, and it'll remember the columns and the order that you set them in only under your logon into Church Windows. Okay. Other users can have their own separate logins if you wish. So you don't have to live with the layout that we've created. You can customize this browse transactions to virtually any way you wish. You can even set it to always open to browse transactions, that when you click browse transactions, and let's do save selections as default. And now when I close out of browse transactions and click back on it again, it'll open up my transaction browser options. See, there it is. I'm basically saying I'm always going to want to search here if I do this. So now let's click clear filter and try clicking OK, and it should come back. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Again, we're just kind of running a little long here, folks. Let me see if there's, yeah, page 25 talks about clearing the filter that we just kind of walked through. Folks, if you can break this window, we need to know how you did it. Okay. If you're unsure how to get back to something here really quickly, to get back to some way, please call us. Our support technicians, myself included, are happy to help. Again, fonts. And if I want to look at multiple vendors or payees, I can click in this menu and I can choose multiple vendors simultaneously. Okay. But I like to tell folks that if I'm looking at just one vendor, per se, I'm not going to use this vendor payee tab. I'm just going to use the account menu on the filter tab. But there's all of the transactions that have posted to those select vendors if I wish. Okay. But I walk through folks and users all the time going in here and just using the account menu to find particular transactions as they pertain to a particular vendor or payee one at a time. I mean, oftentimes when we get multiple vendors in there, it can be a little bit convoluted and unclear about what we're looking at. If you do choose multiple vendors, maybe you want to go to the group and sort and, group it by account, name, and group by field 1, so it's separated into each one of those vendors. Otherwise, the bills and payments become a little less clear to see or to understand which one belongs to which vendor. Okay, finally, before we wrap things up here, notice here that when I click back, let's reset the clear filter to go back to our default layout. Power here, and you don't have to go back to change your filter and sort in order to do groups and sorts and filters, or groups by or filtering. So right here it says, notice in the upper left it says drag a column here to group by that column. Okay, so if I say pick up, say, account number, and I drag it up there and I drop it, notice it's separating it into each one of my account numbers. In fact, I think I can do again a sub sort or group on that by dragging a second column up there. So notice here we've got our asset checking. So now when I click on the plus sign next to 110, 100, my main checking account, notice it is separating those into the various dates that each one of the transactions affected that account. So again, you don't have to go to change your filter and sort in order to group transactions together by any one of these columns here, okay, as they pertain to those. So play with this. I cannot stress that enough. We've gone a few minutes long, folks, but that is where we're going to leave it for today.